Victoria has a lot of history, as you can tell. I've learnt a thing or two over the years of being interested in the network. And in today's video, I've decided to compile some of the random facts and tidbits I know about the Victorian railways into one video. Without further ado, here we go. Most railway stations in Victoria used to be this pale green colour. The largest turntable in Victoria was Ararat with an 80-foot turntable. E-type carriages with a yellow stripe were property of Steam Rail Victoria, while ones without were still in service. The stripe was no longer mandated on wooden body carriages after all of them were withdrawn in the 1980s and early 90s. X-straps beat out the Tates by 13 for the most numerous EMUs built, with 636 individual X-strap carriages. Gowrie Station is tied for being the closest station to a KFC at 40 meters, with Southern Cross are tied for being closest to a Macca's, both having a shop front in them. Australian National BL and V-Line G classes are literally the same thing, just from different states. Moe is the shortest station name, which is still open. The highest station on the V-Line network still carrying passengers is Woodend at 561 meters. The highest station on the Metropolitan network is Belgrave at 227 meters. The Victorian Railways crossed the Murray River 6 times, once at Albury, another at Yarrawonga, Echuca, Murrabit, Robinvale and Tocumwal. Parliament is the deepest railway station in Victoria. Platform 11 at Flinders Street doesn't exist. It was turned into a bar. Flinders Street used to also have a platform 15 and 16. They used to be a part of Princess Bridge Station. The largest grain shed in Victoria is in Murtoa. The last steam engine operated by the Victorian Railways was K162, acting as the Bendigo North pilot, which was then traded with the Shire of Narracan for K183. Cows used to run on the same rails as passengers, until they were all banned with other livestock in the 1980s. Steam Rail Victoria has a depot in the rural town of Wycheproof, although they are just the custodians of the turntable. The only reason why the line from Seymour to Albury is double track standard gauge is because originally it was one standard gauge track and one broad gauge track, but in 2008 the broad gauge was removed and converted to standard gauge. Both the first and last engines built at Newport workshops survive in preservation, Z526 being the first and M232 being the last. 4 N-Class diesels are operated by freight operator Southern Short Haul Railroad, and an extra 6 have been added to that total. The only station with no wheelchair access is Hangton. The only roundhouse still connected to the main line is the Traralgon Roundhouse, which also houses the only new build steam engine in Victoria, N441, by the N441 Restoration Group. The only 360-degree roundhouse to ever exist in Victoria was Geelong. The only heritage railway to be connected to the main line was the Victorian Goldfields Railway at Castlemaine. A Tate set went to Warragul and Ballarat, and a Hitachi went to Yallourn. Besides the P-classes in preservation, SSR owns all of the P-class fleet. Ballarat's traditional spelling is Ballarat. R766 is the only Victorian steam locomotive to be on standard gauge. There are 7 stations with Glen Waverley, Glen Burvey, Glen Iris, Glen Roy, Glen Ferry, Glen Huntley, and Holmes Glen. The reason there are large gaps in between stations, Clifton Hill, Ringwood and Caulfield, is because there used to be extra tracks there. The area where most suburban trains were stabled is where Rod Laver Arena is today. The last set of interlocked crossing gates on the suburban network was at New Street in Brighton, while the last set of interlocked crossing gates in regional Victoria was Lydiard Street in Ballarat. The highest railway bridge in Victoria was the Maribyrnong Viaduct at 55 meters. The longest is the Avon River Bridge in Stratford, approximately 530 meters. The oldest station building with trains still running is Williamstown, built in 1859. The newest is East Pakenham. The oldest station building in general is St Kilda, built in 1857. The closest station to the beach is Brighton Beach at about 100 meters. Nearly everywhere you stand in Docklands once had a rail line over it. There used to be a railway goods siding where the Westgate Tunnel portal is being built now. The State Coal Mine and others in the Wonthaggi area used to fuel nearly all of Victoria's steam engines. To get to Stratford, the main line via Rosedale would take you 64 kilometers, while the Maffra line took 62 kilometers. There are 21 K classes in preservation, with 4 operational, 1 under restoration, and 2 stored for long-term restoration. The highest railway station ever built in Victoria was Shelley on the Cudgewar line, at 781 meters above sea level. The Cudgewar line also had the longest railway decline/incline, approximately 14 kilometers. Some N classes are named after places which don't have a passenger service anymore. Mitcham and Nunawading are the best trench stations, and they weren't even built as part of the LXRP. The Bellarine Railway was once broad gauge. Port Williamstown and Port Melbourne were once the main ports in Melbourne. There was a proposed 080 shunter or banker to be used at major goods yards. I'm not sure what letter it would have been designated, I'm guessing U. The tallest trestle bridge in Victoria is the Nudgee Trestle, standing at a height of 21 meters. The longest wooden trestle bridge is the Snowy River Bridge at a length of 777 meters. The longest rail line not in Victoria run by the VR was the Balranald line at a length of 393.5 kilometers. You've heard of Anzac, but have you heard of Anzac Siding, located at the old Spotswood Reclamation Depot? Speaking of the Spotswood Reclamation Depot, it was where old pieces of railway infrastructure were taken to be disassembled and salvaged for future use, such as rails, sleepers, wooden poles, level crossing bells, station signs, and basically everything. This also meant engines were cut up here. I'll make a separate video about the cranes and what else actually went on at the depot, as well as the storeroom. These are railway tractors, used for light shunting work at distant country stations, and they appear in the most random of places. Look at this one in Tailem Bend in South Australia. K183 has been in preservation more years than it has been in service. 33 years in service compared to 49 in preservation. The Newport Workshops is basically a dumping ground for unwanted rolling stock from railway operators. Looking on Google Earth, you can see some Comengers, a couple of DRCs, V-cars, MTH trailers, a turntable deck, a CE van, a Workman's van, a Z van, oh, and not to mention the asbestos-filled W-class trams and an infinite amount of Hitachi carriages. Tarrawarra will possibly have the greatest rail line to population ratio ever, with the old Murrelbach station being set up at Tarrawarra, as well as it receiving a 9-road rail yard. And comparing to what Tarrawarra will become to this photo from the 1970s, it's a huge difference. While engines from different mainline heritage operators can travel to different heritage railways, mainly the VGR, the most impressive case of an engine visiting another heritage railway is definitely 7A from the Puffing Billy Railway, going back to its old line of Walhalla. And for it to run on the Walhalla line again, the railway had to literally push in a curve. There was a rail line to appear iwarnable. There used to be 3 rail lines which connected to South Australia from Victoria, one at Mount Gambier, one at Pinaru, and one at Serviceton. There are 2 sections of track outside the Jolimont tunnels which are actually City Loop test tracks. Apparently, both of these designs were chosen as they reduced noise, and you can hear the difference in pitch when trains roll over them. The VR used to run a broad gauge street tram from St Kilda to Brighton Beach and Sandringham to Black Rock. The Victorian Railways survived 124 years from 1859 to 1983. There was a proposed rail line from Flemington Bridge to Pascoe Vale, pretty much along the route that CityLink follows today. Ocean Grove is the town with the second highest population to never have a rail line, with a population of 22,035. To my knowledge, there are only 2 standard gauge broad gauge diamonds in Victoria. This was just a very quick video I wanted to get out before my next video, my magnum opus, which should be posted relatively soon. If you want me to do another video like this, please do let me know, although they won't be as frequent as my normal videos. Make sure to join the Discord and Patreon, links in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.